Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. It's Tuesday, and the patch notes for patch 8.8 have been posted, and that means it's time for another patch note rundown. As always, I'll be going through the biggest changes in this week's patch and letting you guys know what you can be looking forward to in the coming weeks. Now, with MSI, Clash, and the summer split coming up soon, Riot have swapped from the large patch, small patch cadence that we have been having to more of a medium patch thing to keep things somewhat consistent over the next few weeks. So these patches won't be significantly large in the coming weeks. However, 8.8 is still pretty big with a few minor reworks for champions and a bunch of balance changes aimed at pro picks to try and balance things out before MSI. Moving straight into things, talking about LeBlanc first and foremost. She is getting a partial revert of her rework that she had with the Assassin rework. So in a similar vein to Rengar, the rework didn't really solve her problems, and in LeBlanc's case, made her feel more like a kite mage and less of an assassin than she really wanted to be. So Riot are reverting a large majority of her previous rework. Her old passive is back. She creates the controllable clone when she hits 40% HP, so all LeBlanc players will be a big fan of that, I would guess. The W damage is up, and the cooldown is down. The speed is down as well, and the reactivation delay of the ability now applies on the finish of the dash as opposed to the start of the cast. Her E's AP ratio is down, and the root damage is up. The root AP ratio is also up, and the mana cost has been increased, and the tether range has been increased as well, so that's more important, I would guess. Finally, her R-cast now casts the most recently casted basic ability that she has used. So no more will you have to hit R and then try to think of the ability you want. Just you can Q R without problems instead of having to say QRQ. So this should help LeBlanc feel a little bit better, a little bit more like an assassin. Unfortunately, it will also reduce her to a lot of the previous problems she had with her playstyle. Ahri is getting a mini rework in this patch as well. She's transforming back from the kite mage pattern that she's had for a long time now, back to more of an assassin-like playstyle. First, she has a new passive called Vestian Grace. If she scores 2 spell hits against an enemy champion within 1.5 seconds of each other, she gains 20% bonus movement speed for 3 seconds, so that still kind of keeps her with the ability to move around in fights. Her Q now has her old passive, but the healing will only ever proc on Q, not that anyone ever used it on a different ability anyways. Her W now prioritizes charmed enemies or enemies that she's most recently auto-attacked, so it will try to get to them more than other foes. Her E has the Kiss of Death effect back, so enemies that she successfully charms take 20% more damage from all of her abilities. And her R's damage is down, but the ratio is up, so this should help Ahri feel a little bit more like an assassin who kind of bides her time, while also still having some of the mage-style patterns she's used to. Aurelia is getting nerfed in this patch as well. Yes, I know, better nerf Aurelia. Her late games is way too strong right now, so Riot are toning that down and giving her more consistent lane strengths. Her base armor is up, and her Q damage to minions is up as well to 70% from 50%. Her R cooldown has been increased, however, and the missile and wall damage has both been reduced, so she should feel a little worse in the late game about using her ultimate, but will also feel pretty decent in the early game due to the bonus armor and the Q damage to minions. Moving on to sort of pro pick nerfs here. Azir is being nerfed. He needs nerfs yet again because he still does too many things good. His soldier attacks deal even less damage to non-primary targets, and they don't reach their full value until level 16, up from level 11, so it will take even longer for Azir to be dealing full damage to enemies with his soldiers. Braum is being nerfed. He's just too dang tanky right now. His armor growth has been decreased, and the resistances provided by his W have been lowered as well. Galio is being nerfed in this patch as well. He is still too strong, and players have kind of learned how to best position themselves to take full advantage of his ultimate, which has led Riot to believe that his ultimate is on too low of a cooldown and will be increasing it appropriately. His R's cooldown has been increased by 20 seconds at rank 1 and 40 at rank 3, so that's a 200-second cooldown early on in the game and a 160-second cooldown at rank 3. That means that Galio will be taking a long time to reach his full strength on his ultimate. So make every single one of them count. Kai'Sa's being nerfed. She got overbuffed. Players learned to play her, etc. I talked about this before in a podcast. So her base health regen and health regen growth have been nerfed, and her Q's damage ratios have been decreased as well, so she shouldn't be one-shotting you with an evolved Q. Lysandra is actually being buffed in this patch, which was surprising to see. Riot are trying to give her ways to use her strengths more often, given that she's been struggling, so they want her being able to find success when making the initiation plays. Her Q's mana cost is down, and her R's cooldown is down at early rank, so Lysandra's should be feeling a little bit better about themselves going forward. Nautilus is being buffed in this patch. Riot are trying to help him find success in his historical roles, especially in that of being an initiator. His base mana and attack damage have been increased to help him get a little bit better trades or farming in the jungle, and his Q's cooldown has been decreased to give him more dredge lines and more opportunities to find fights. Sion is being nerfed in this patch as well. He finally needs to be tuned down. He's a consistent pick in professional play, and the biggest issue with him is that he doesn't give up enough damage when he maxes his E over his Q in lane. He just kind of still does a ton of damage. So Riot have nerfed the damage ratio on his Q and the full charge damage as well. So Sion will pretty much need to max Q if he wants to feel good about how much damage it deals. Otherwise, he will still want to max E for those kind of hard poke lanes where he just wants to farm from afar. Tahm Kench is being nerfed. Riot are trying to help him feel more like he can be poked down in lane as opposed to just kind of the brick wall that he is. And they're also removing an unneeded mechanic that just kind of gave him excess strength. Namely, his W giving him movement speed while moving towards an enemy when he's got an ally in his stomach. That was kind of a problem because the check to see if he's moving towards an enemy was fairly wide. So Tahm Kench could still be running immediately away from danger, but still get the movement speed bonus. That has been removed since no one is using it to carry an ally into the fight in the first place. His E's % gray health restored has also been reduced at all ranks by 10%, so it will be significantly easier to poke down Tahm Kench and to get more of that damage to stick. Talia is being nerfed. She's too good at shoving and roaming, so they're nerfing that, and they're also making her more vulnerable to assassins. Her base health has been decreased to make her a little bit less prone, or a little bit more risky into assassins and just in general to being traded on, and her Q's cooldown has been increased to make it harder for her to endlessly clear. Varus is being changed in this patch as well. Riot are trying to give him incentives to care about his most iconic ability, Piercing Arrow, and with his sniper builds as well, as opposed to just going for the straight up attack speed on hit builds that he's been going for of late. His passive's attack speed has been decreased both for champion and minion kills. His W's on hit damage is down, but now has an active that increases the damage on his next Q, and that scales based on how long he spent charging. So Varus will feel significantly better about having the maxed out Q, and he does have a 4th activated ability now. So Varus players, remember that you can actually press your W. Vi is being changed up in this patch as well. Riot are trying to buffer and give her a route back into the top lane. Trying to buffer in general, but also saying, hey, she was originally concepted to be a top laner. Let's try to find a way to get her back into the top lane as well. Her base armor and armor growth have been reduced, but her base health regen and health regen growth have been increased. Additionally, her passive's cooldown is down at early levels. Her Q's cooldown has been decreased across the board, and her E's mana cost is down. So Vi should feel significantly better in the top lane and in the jungle as well. Xayah is getting nerfed in this patch. She's too good at just coasting through hard lane matchups when she should be getting bullied, which is weird because she's very, very squishy as well in short range, so she shouldn't have as easy of a time through hard, tough matchups like Draven or Lucian. Her base health regen and attack damage have both been decreased to facilitate this. Finally, moving on to some miscellaneous changes. Archangel Staff's mana to AP conversion has been reduced from 3% to 1%. It doesn't affect Seraph's Embrace though, so basically Archangel Staff will feel significantly worse as a completed item until you have Seraph's Embrace, at which point it will go back to feeling pretty good again. Lethal Tempo has been buffed again. People still aren't picking it up, so the attack speed bonus has been increased at all levels. Sweeping Lens has been removed from the store. You can no longer buy it. Instead, Oracle's Lens is available from level 1 because that's the only one you really cared about in the first place, and it was too complicated to have to remember. I finished my Sightstone, buy a Sweeping Lens, then when I hit level 9, buy an Oracle Alteration. No reason to do that. They've changed it. And finally, Home Start, the buff that you get, the movement speed you get at the beginning of a game, now lasts longer, but it falls off immediately when you hit the river, and upon crossing the outer turret line, it rapidly decays. So this should help players not have as much of an incentive to run immediately for the battle bush at the beginning of the game, as you won't get there fast enough to immediately get into cover. Those are the biggest changes in 8.8, a fairly large patch, but a lot of very small changes, so I highly recommend you read the full patch notes to see anything else they might have changed that I didn't cover today. Let me know what change you guys are most excited for down in the comment section below, and if you enjoy the video, go ahead and leave a like. If you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload an article every single day for your enjoyment. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I'll talk to you all later.